A compelling detective story, a cloak and dagger action, and a romantic drama, all these stories were taken from real life. The history of Kazakhstan is inseparable from the world history. Reflections on history, our version.
An investigation held by local historians. Long hours were spent in the reading rooms of Kazakhstan's central archives, and summaries were made in the neat handwriting. How can this secret be uncovered? Once I managed to find the reason behind that scandal. A squeaking stepladder interrupted the silence. How can the needed documents be found among so many thousands of papers? These difficulties in communication were typical of the provinces. Let's walk in the old center at a slow pace and follow the route of this strange story. What made Paul Gourdet leave our city? Somehow the echoes of that occurrence appeared in local historical research. There was Gourdet's mysterious letter. Anyway, what happened to the Frenchman in the city of Verny? There was some intrigue. Paul Gourdet, who did so much for Verny, did not expect it would end like this. It often happens that talented people aren't in demand in their time. Chapter 1. An architectural vendetta. It happened that fatal November 1906. Somebody made an attempt on my life on the night of November 26th. They fired a revolver at the bedroom window. They took aim at the bed. From Paul Gourdet's letter to his grammar school headmaster. A banal rivalry could trigger all these events. The city architecture itself played the part of a beautiful lady, and the two famous architects started their verbal duel because of her. It was probably Governor General's mansion, which was located somewhere here, led to these events. Pavel Zenkov's engineer was chosen the head of the city in 1877. He almost finished the design for the residence when his work was given to Paul Gourdet. The French architect took on this work and made a report on some failures and a crack in a wall. After that, no construction commission could mend the crack in the relationship between the two architects. The head of the city, Zenkov, wrote a complaint saying that Gourdet was chopping off foundation stones from the governor's house in order to ruin it. The head of construction department, Lysenko, replied that the reasons for that complaint probably were as firm as the foundation of the governor's house itself. It's interesting that Gourdet himself did not seem to participate in the scandal. I think it wasn't Paul Gourdet, but Zenkov's father who played the most important role in this matter, while Paul remained a noble and vulnerable person, in my opinion. Even the earthquake which destroyed the ill-starred residence did not settle the matter. The wall of misunderstanding between them only became higher. Conflicts between Zenkov and Gourdet occurred all the time. At the same time, it's interesting that the Frenchman became a city architect in 1883. Later, Andrei Zenkov interfered in their argument too. Once, when he was making a speech in the Verny city administration, he said that any conductor could draw the same as Gourdet did. Well, by a conductor, he meant a draftsman.
С такой речью, что то, что вроде создает Gourdet, может нарисовать каждый кондуктор. Но кондуктор — это чертежник.
Pavel Medvedevich added fuel to the fire too. He called Gourdet an imposter architect in a newspaper article. As a result, a court trial started and the head of the city was found guilty of slander and sentenced to 5 months of imprisonment. On July the 7th, 1906, the Semirichi Regional Gazette published a message. Zenkov wrote to Gourdet. This message turned out to be fatal for its author. The message said, Dear Pavel Vasilievich, the magistrate of the 4th District of Verny Administrative Unit and Tashkent Trial Chamber found me guilty of slandering you in the press.
Кассационным решением Ташкентской судебной палаты я признан виновным в оклеветании вас в печати.
Zenkov apologized to him formally. Anyway, Paul, or Pavel Gourdet, forgave the head of the city and even asked to overturn the conviction. How did Zenkov endure the public humiliation? Could the architectural vendetta lead to an attempted murder? Local historians couldn't find any confirmation. However, while doing research, they found other suspects. Chapter 2: Passions Behind the Facade. Dombrovsky admired this building, saying it was like a lace-like giant with wide patterned doors, or gates rather than doors. However, the famous writer and Almaty local historian could not even imagine what kind of passions were running high behind the facade of that palace of Sherazade. Once Gourdet was walking and noticed that Gabdul-Valiev, the merchant, was building a house, but nobody had submitted a plan concerning that area to the city hall. Gourdet, as a senior architect of the city, probably was involved in that. He was supposed to stop it somehow. However, Gabdul-Valiev couldn't stand that any longer and said, "What are you doing here? I paid you money and you built such a bad building." He voiced his complaints. According to the material of the illegal construction case, Paul Gourdet launched the project of Kyzyl-Tan construction. Nelly Buketova has protected the name of Gourdet. The project was planned in 1895. Then the local government and authorities came to an agreement on the project. The building was built in 1896. It literally took very little time. The author of the building design was Gourdet too. We should search for the sources leading to this occurrence in 1895. It was when the merchant asked the architect to launch the project of the building. However, after the work was finished, he paid only a small part of the sum that he had promised. There is some historical correspondence according to which the sum was 100 rubles. Although Gourdet said it wasn't enough, he produced the design, worked on it, submitted it, and participated in protecting it when it was necessary to get approved. Gourdet did not raise this question because, according to him, they didn't have a written agreement. So it was useless to start arguments. It said that he answered to greed in a creative way. Since they didn't have enough money for construction, it said that they made the building a few meters shorter.
Поэтому и само, говорят, здание было приспущено на несколько метров, понижено стало.
Later, the merchant asked to raise the ceilings of the Kyzyl-Tan building and tried to pay the whole sum of money, but Gourdet refused. Finally, Andrei Zenkov rebuilt the building and its design was attributed to him for many years. The situation was very difficult because first, Gabdul-Valiev assigned the design and construction to one architect and then another. In addition, he always tried to save money.
И он везде пытался урезать.
Is there a connection between this architectural scandal and fatal shot? According to the materials on the illegal construction, the merchant intimidated Gourdet a few times. Probably the court decided to impose a fine on Gabdul-Valiev or imprison him. However, it seems that the conviction was overturned. Then, what was the result of the conflict? Perhaps there were completely different reasons. Chapter 3: The Grammar School Riot. Destiny connected this building with this country again in a strange way. Paul Gourdet not only worked on reconstructing the grammar school after the earthquake, but also taught there. Today, there's a branch of the oldest university of France. We can say that the project carried out by Paul Gourdet, the French architect, is being continued today. It's very important because, as you know, the world-famous Sorbonne University has only 2 branches outside of France. One of them is in the Arab Emirates, and the second is in Kazakhstan.
Он имеет только два филиала, один в Арабских Эмиратах, а второй вот в Казахстане.
Of course, a lot has changed in the building since Soviet times, but its structure and airiness remained the same. Probably, it was his favorite work. He built a lot of buildings in Alma-Ata, and some of them he valued most of all. He worked on all the projects aimed at the grammar school construction free of charge. Besides this, he always was eager to provide services related to building and repairs. If we pay full attention to the biography of Paul Gourdet, we'll notice that he was very meticulous because he faced the consequences of the earthquake which occurred in 1887. His buildings met all the seismic demands, and the aesthetic qualities of his architecture were quite original. His designs were always excellent. It's noteworthy that Gourdet was the author of the Almaty emblem. He managed to do all these things and worked simultaneously. After all, he was the senior architect of the city. In addition, he kept teaching. There is information on Paul Gourdet's appointment as a teacher of the French language in his personal file. There is his track record, documents and correspondence of the time when he worked in the grammar school. This is his teacher's service record. As for his work as a teacher, he never stopped it. He continued even when he'd become the city architect. As I've already said, he started this work in 1876 and continued almost until he left the city.
Как я уже говорил, в 1876 году он начал этим заниматься и продолжал до практически самого своего отъезда.
The conflict with his students wounded him stronger and deeper than the permanent quarrels with Zenkov and arguments with unsatisfied clients like Abdul Valiev. It isn't clear exactly what happened in 1906. I have never given my students occasion to feel such intense hatred towards me. On the contrary, I always treated them generously and fairly. On occasion, I helped with good pieces of advice and even gave money to them. Thus, I can explain their behavior only as a result of the instigation of some unworthy people whose names I do not know yet. From the Paul Gourdet's letter to the grammar school headmaster. Students of some form stopped bowing to him and even started boycotting his lessons. He managed to overcome the bold behavior of the students. He found their complaints about not teaching them French properly quite unfair. Everything started when Gourdet protected a teacher who reported to the headmaster that 2 students had left school at night. Students started hating the French teacher too. In addition, the school management was afraid that the students' riots would disturb the quiet city of Verny and impose strict rules. In any case, Gourdet suffered because of his adherence to justice and order. Somebody fired a shot into his window at night. This occasion really irritated and worried Pavel Vasilyevich. They aimed the shot at his bed, but luckily he managed to avoid the tragedy. They couldn't find the person who'd attempted the murder. The strangest fact is that the researchers didn't find any mention of an investigation. Epilogue. A shot rang out. Although that shot did not cause any physical wounds, it broke his heart. Paul Gourdet, who loved the city with all his heart and did his best for it for 40 years, could not understand why it happened. Probably he didn't even try to find out who'd done it. In addition, many representatives of the technical department of Semirechye Regional Architecture Management expressed hostility towards him. All these facts could lead to his final decision. The final decision was leaving the city. In spite of that occurrence, he taught for 2 more years. He resigned as a senior architect in 1903 and left his favorite city in 1910.